Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube channel, The World of English. Today, in this video, we're going to discuss the poem We All Are Indians First, written by Dr. Prashant Bhatt. So to begin with, we can say that this is a need of the hour poem. If we reflect on the latest developments or recent happenings in our country, we would learn that there has been an increase in the level of intolerance among the Indians due to a lot of diversity and differences relating to their regional, religious, linguistic, and cultural identity. This intolerance then leads to a communal violence or hatred among the people, causing an unrest among the communities of the Indian citizens there. Therefore, this poem is very significant and relevant looking at the current scenario in our country. In this poem, or in the face of increasing a level of intolerance, the poet tries to remind the Indian youth of their identity, or their first and foremost identity, and that is being Indians. And we already know, if the Indian youth is aware of their responsibilities and duties towards the well-being, towards the betterment of the society, they are the future of India. Therefore, if we wish to establish peace, ensure the harmony and peaceful coexistence of all the diverse communities of India, we must look for unity. And India is rightly described as the unity in diversity country, and we live this slogan. Therefore, the poet is trying to appeal to the Indian youths to rise above their regional prejudices or biases and adopt one identity, and that is being Indians. And that must be our first and foremost identity. Let's move forward to the poem now. Introduction. So, We All Are Indians First is a nationalistic and patriotic poem. Nationalism is defined as one's love of their own nation, or also the idea of supporting their own nation, own people, and own culture. It is also a people's loyalty towards the development, progression, and well-being of their own nation by discharging their duties and responsibilities adequately. However, there is also an extreme form of nationalism which is rather dangerous and can lead to a conflict between two different nations of the world. Patriotism, on the other hand, is the feeling of devotion or sacrifice of the people towards their nation. Now let's talk about the poet. Dr. Bhatt, besides being a poet, is a writer and a blogger. He runs the blog called Prashant Bhatt's Notes. Themes? Themes basically mean the major ideas or the main message given in a poem or in any literary text there. So when it comes to the themes of Dr. Bhatt's poetry, there are two predominant themes, and they are patriotism and humanity. Humanity, we already know, is a feeling of concern towards other fellow human beings there, or our, let's say, love for others, that means other human beings, or we pity the sufferings of fellow human beings around us. That's known as humanity. Stylistics means the style of writing of a particular writer. So stylistic features of Dr. Bhatt's poetry are the use of simple language or common language or everyday language, and the use of modern or unorthodox rhyme scheme. Some of his well-known poems that follow the above themes and stylistic features are India is My Pride, Winds of Change, and My Heart is Just Like You. Talking about the theme of the current poem, we already know that this poem motivates the Indian youth to be proud of their identity, and that is being Indian. That should be their first and foremost identity, irrespective of their regional, religious, linguistic, and other sorts of differences. So let's move on to the next point. This poem reinforces two ideas, and the first one is humanity is our only religion, and being Indian is our first and foremost identity. So these are two important and two fundamental ideas that the poet is trying to get across the audience there. Now, when we talk about India flaunting its rich historic and cultural heritages, we already know Indian civilization or Indian culture is one of the oldest civilizations across the globe. So no doubt we have ancient art forms like dance forms, music forms, as well as other forms related to yoga and the art of or maybe the science of medicine called Ayurveda. So no doubt India has one of the richest, let's say, pasts compared to any other countries across the globe there. And when we talk about cultural heritages of India, we already know there are a lot of diverse communities, diverse practices, diverse let's say sort of groups staying in India, which contribute to the diversity of culture in India, and that's what makes Indian culture really rich. When it comes to India being the land of saints, sages, and gods, we already know there have been a lot of saints in India, a lot of sages in India, and also a lot of gods in India. Therefore, this country is actually known as the land of gods. We already know there have been lots of saints and sages who sort of guided the people, who taught moral and ethical values to the people, and they contributed to the peace, spirituality, and purity of our land. When we talk about gods, we know that in Hindu religion, or let's say most of the religions in India, have many gods. Imagine we have lots of sects in the same religion there. So we have Shaivism, and then we have Vaishnavism as well. So the followers of Lord Shiva and the followers of Lord Vishnu there. So we have a lot of spirituality, a lot of saints, sages, and gods who sort of contributed to the sort of richness of the spirituality, the purity of the land. And at the end, this poem appeals to the Indian youth to throw away or get rid of their regional differences and accept or adopt one identity, and that should be their primary identity, and that is going to be the Indianness, the feeling of Indianness, or the identity of being an Indian there. Next, we will move on to the. So now let's take a look at the text of the poem, and I would be taking up two lines each uh, to elaborate the point in those lines. So the poem goes like this: History is our witness, and martyrs are the God. Now, when we think about Indian history, we know that our country faced or witnessed a lot of internal and external invasions and attacks from neighboring hostile nations. But our forefathers or fellow human beings, fellow Indians, those days held their morale high, and fought back with equal zeal and intensity. And we have had a lot of, let's say, national and internal social movements there, like our greatest fight against the British Raj or British, let's say, clutches there. So our forefathers fought back really hard, and today we can see a lot of liberty of our own nation. At the same time, internal movements like Mr. Gandhiji's, for example, Mr. Gandhiji's Dandi March, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's fight for the rights of the Dalits have all contributed to the evolution, to the modernization of Indian society today. And martyrs of the God, they are our real gods because they are the ones who safeguard us, who secure us at the cost of their own life, and also kind of more than, like, when they are not really with their own family members, with their own loved ones. Okay, so this is what is their contribution, and therefore they are actually our gods. Then we are disciples of gurus. This land is saints abode. So we already know India had a great culture of gurus and sishyas there. That means the sort of culture of education, and that is known to be the richest guru sishya culture, or let's say educational culture there. So we are the disciples of our gurus. Gurus mean they are the ones who sort of teach us knowledge as well as wisdom and the way to lead our life. So they enlighten our life there, and not just giving knowledge there. And this land is saints abode. There have been a lot of saints and sages in India who born and died, and sort of they made this land very spiritual, and also sort of helped all the human beings, all the Indian beings to lead, or to kind of take this godly way, the godly kind of direction there. Let's try to move on to the next two lines. Compassion is our heritage. So when it comes to Indians, we are extremely compassionate. When others are suffering, we feel that is our own suffering. So that's what actually is in our DNA. When somebody suffers, we feel that we are suffering. So that is our greatest heritage. And we, in humanity, do we trust? We trust in only one thing, and that is humanity. We value humanity to the highest level. Okay, and neither Hindu nor Muslim, we all are Indians first. So let's not kind of restrict ourselves to only one religion, either being Hindu or Muslim or Christian or any other religion, but try to let's imbibe or inculcate this common identity, and that is being Indians first. Let's move on to the next stanza. For that, we have some pictures here. So this is the second stanza of the poem, and there are three stanzas in total. So let's follow the same style of explanation and proceed further. So the second stanza goes like this: diversity is our culture and unity is our strength. So no doubt when it comes to our country, that is our nation, that is India, it is known to be one of the most diverse nations across the globe. So we have a lot of differences, like religions, like languages, like cultures, like ethnic identities, and many more. Even there are differences in terms of attire of the people, food habits of the people of different, let's say, regions and religions in India. At the same time, there is a lot of diversity in terms of festivals and the celebrations of those festivals in India. Next, when it comes to culture, if we go by the popular or standard definition of culture, we know a culture is a group of people who follow the same or almost the same practices. But this doesn't really apply to our culture because diversity itself is our culture and unity is our greatest strength. So among all the differences or amid all the differences, Indians manage to live harmoniously, peacefully and unitedly, and that is the greatest strength of India. Even we know India is let's say very rightly described as a unity in diversity country. So we truly live the no, live this slogan, or we truly justify this slogan there. So let's move on to the next two lines. We strive for peace of world, but are cautious of defense. So we already know India is a spiritual land. India is a land of, let's say, non-violence. Therefore, we try to teach peace to the world. At the same time, we try to establish peace in the countries across the world. But at the same time, we're cautious of our defense. The hostile nations, or the nations who think that we are really coward, we are really, let's say, innocent, should not really think that way. They should be aware that when it comes to defense, we are extremely cautious, we are extremely prepared. So that's what that's what the message of these two lines is. So let's move on to the next two lines. Challenger of our sovereignty for sure would bite the dust. So those who the hostile nations, okay, the neighboring nations who try to object or oppose our supremacy, our independence, who try to also disturb the peace and harmony of the people of India, would definitely be retaliated. They would definitely bite the dust, or they will be killed. They will be defeated, because Indian army is also known to be one of the strongest armies across the globe there. Therefore, all the enmity, all the enemy nations or the hostile nations should be aware of our strength and our, let's say, preparedness there. And finally, we are neither Kannad nor Oriya, but we are all Indians first, or we all are Indians first. Let's move on. So now, before we proceed further, we have some of the glimpses of diversity in India. So we have two pictures on this slide. The first picture is related to the diversity in terms of celebrations of festivals in India, and the festival here is namely the festival of Holi, or we call it the festival of colors. And colors actually stand for different emotions, different feelings in life. So this is a symbolic way of celebrating a life or different situations in life. And the last picture relates to the food practices or food habits followed in different regions, different religions and different ethnic groups in India. So let's move on to this last stanza, that means stanza number 3 of the poem, and it goes like this. Perseverance is our ethos and diligence is our means. So perseverance means it's our ability to take or make continual efforts without relaxing, without giving up, with a lot of determination and dedication there. And it is our ethos, that means it is our characteristic, it is actually our identity. So Indians across the globe are actually known to be very let's say perseverant, and also very, let's say, dedicated to their or committed to their work, to their let's say responsibility there. And diligence is our means. So whenever we want to achieve something, or whenever we want to succeed in life, we work really hard. We work hard with a good plan there. That means diligence. So these are the kind of these are the very characteristics or very, let's say, features of being Indians there, right? So next one, we pledge to usher in dawn our ancestors saw in dreams, and we now kind of pledge, we sort of promise to sort of bring or begin a new dawn for our India, which our ancestors have always dreamt of. We will definitely bring glory to India, beautiful days to India, and India will definitely kind of shine with a lot of success and a lot of sort of glory there. And we ain't shy of hard work. For us, rest is rest. So we are never shy of hard work. We sort of are ready to take up any sort of job. There is no big job, there is no small work. Every kind of job is similar to us. We respect all sorts of work, all sorts of a job there. And for us, only thing is that when we think we are resting, we feel we are actually rusting. Therefore, we believe in hard work, we believe in, let's say, a lot of work there, and that's the only means, that's the only way to kind of become successful. So this is what Indians kind of sort of realize, and they take required efforts in the required direction. So the only way to shine in life is to work hard. To prove our mettle, we must really work hard. And this is what Indians believe in. This is what they trust actually. So finally, we're neither Tamil nor Sindhi, but we all are Indians first. We all are Indians first. So thank you very much. I hope you have. So these are the pictures of some of the most successful Indians who worked hard, who were perseverant and also diligent. So two of them are very important. The last two, that means Satya Nadella, who leads Microsoft as the CEO of the company, and Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google. However, I have missed out on very important successful personalities like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, for example. So let's move on to the next one. So to conclude our discussion on the poem, we can say, since India is a multi-religious, multilingual, multi-ethnic and multicultural nation, we must be proud of our national identity, and that is being Indians first. We must also take some pride in our historic and other heritages there. And we already know that we have been taught by our gurus that this feeling of gratefulness is really significant and crucial in life. It adds some value, it adds some meaning to our life. Therefore, we must be grateful to our nation because we are born here and also lead our life here. To finally sort of share the concluding remarks, we can say, when we, or especially the Indian youth, adopt one single identity, and that of national identity of being Indians, despite all their differences, our nation no doubt will prosper both economically and spiritually at the same time in every possible way. So these are the sources of images that I incorporated in this presentation. So this is the glossary of terms along with their pronunciation of difficult words. For instance, martyrs, for instance, disciples, sovereignty, and bite the dust, which is actually an idiom. We have Here we have perseverance. This is how we pronounce it. Perseverance, which means continual effort or determination. then we have usher in, then end, which is actually a kind of contracted form of am not, is not, or are not in American English. And the final is rest is rust, which is an idiom that means when one doesn't work, they fall out of use, or they are sort of not really shining in life. So with this, I would like to thank you for your patience and support. I hope you have followed the explanation of the poem to a good extent. If you still have any queries or doubts, please feel free to post them in the comments section and we will try to answer those. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.